Gino Kenny.
Let's go. Tánaiste, one of your last engagements as Taoiseach was on December the 15th in relation to the EU Council. Can you report back to the House in relation to your engagements with your counterparts in relation to the common European defence?
Well, yesterday we had a debate, statements in the House in relation to the EU Council meeting on the 15th of December, and I reported formally back to the House in respect of that meeting. And, you know, I have corresponded since my appointment with a number of EU counterparts, and I look forward to engaging with them in person, both bilaterally and in the format of both the Foreign Affairs Council and in the Defence Ministers format also. There will be two opportunities to meet my colleagues in March. In early March, I will attend an informal meeting of EU Defence Ministers in Stockholm, and on the 20th of March, EU Foreign and Defence Ministers will meet jointly to discuss the strategic compass, 1 year on from its adoption by EU leaders. While the agenda for the March informal has not yet been confirmed, it seems safe to assume that the discussions will be dominated by the ongoing war in Ukraine and the international community's response, particularly that of the European Union. One could also imagine that such issues as the utilisation of the European Peace Facility, the European Union Military Assistance Mission in Ukraine, and the progress made to date on the implementation of the strategic compass will also be on the Ministers' agenda. Indeed, a number of these issues featured on the agenda of EU defence policy directors in Stockholm yesterday. In terms of the Council meeting and the strategic compass and common security and defence, Ireland has decided to join an EU battle group where Germany will take the lead role. We have consistently been part of battle groups, training and preparing on such battle groups, which improves our interoperability with other forces that we serve with on peacekeeping missions. I think that makes sense. And also I think we do have to continually reflect on the evolution of the European Union's common security and defence policy, given the particular interests and concerns that we have. I think it's important as we participate in those discussions that Ireland's position is well understood. And I think bilateral engagement is a key element in ensuring that this is the case.
So I'm glad you touched on the issue around EU battle groups. Do you not think that Ireland's participation in these groups undermine Ireland's neutrality? And that's a very, very straight question. EU battle groups, which you have mentioned. Do you not think that this erodes Ireland's neutrality, which has been a policy for decades, and that has given huge credence to Ireland's international standing, to not take part in any military exercise that seem not defensive but offensive? So I would read by this that any participation by Ireland in these groups is a breach of neutrality.
I would have to disagree with you fundamentally, because our military neutrality has always been defined as non-membership of a military alliance. We are not members of a military alliance. We're not members of NATO. That is the definition of Ireland's military neutrality. We have never been politically neutral. We've joined the European Union. We've been involved in battle groups since, I think, 2001 onwards. Participating in battle groups in themselves don't commit to any particular theatre of either peacekeeping, peace enforcement, or any such. All of such decisions would have to come back to this House, back to government, and be UN mandated in terms of peacekeeping, in terms of Security Council resolutions. So in no way does participation in a battle group undermine Ireland's military neutrality. When I was in Lebanon, we worked with the Polish troops, for example, and with some Hungarian troops. It makes absolute sense that there's interoperability on such missions, otherwise it would be far more dangerous not to have that.
Tánaiste, I disagree with you. I think this is a flagrant breach of Ireland's neutrality. And if you look at the evolution of Ireland's participation even in the Nordic groups, the battle groups, you can see the evolution, how Ireland is being pulled into a more of a kind of a European defence army. And even like just even the commentary in here in relation to eroding Ireland's kind of triple lock status. I mean, Simon Coveney in the past has said, look, this is open for interpretation and it's open for debate. And the soundings thus far, in the particularly last year, is Ireland's neutrality is being eroded. And it's been eroded by stealth, and it's been eroded by actual participation in relation to these groups. These groups are, in my mind, they're not defensive. They're offensive. They are. I mean, look at actually Ireland's participation in these groups. They're offensive, not defensive.
Offensive. It's essentially training exercise, preparation exercise. Our army can't be isolationist and not ever meet any other army or engage with other defence forces. That's an absurd position to adopt. You need to. I mean, you take cybersecurity, huge threat to the country. Are we to be isolationist in terms of the threat of cybersecurity in this country? Are we to ignore the expertise around the world in respect of cybersecurity? In terms of hybrid threats that are increasingly a part of war? You know, we need to have our own independent position as we go into engagement with others, certainly. And we need to have our bottom line. Again, we discussed earlier, when Deputy Gannon raised the issue of the triple lock. The issue now is, for the foreseeable future, that Russia will determine whether Ireland ever again participates in a peacekeeping mission. We need to reflect on that. I would argue that that's a curtailment of our own sovereignty in terms of if we want to participate in a UN peacekeeping mission in the future. There may not be UN peacekeeping missions in the future because of that very fact. And given the way Russia and to a lesser extent China are currently behaving on the Security Council. So we need to discuss these things openly.